Welcome everyone to another Benzinga interview. Today I'm joined by Melissa Pagen, the Senior Vice President of Corporate Development at Generation Hemp. Melissa, thanks so much for joining us. How are you?
Great, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Melissa, we have so many interesting things to talk about aside of the business of Generation Hemp that we really haven't covered with the Benzinga coverage so far. So I'm really excited to dive into this. How did Generation Hemp end up in animal bedding? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
If you'd asked me 2 years ago, animal bedding would probably not have been one of the first segments I thought we would enter. And I think it happened for a few different reasons. So first, I would actually love to just point at the industry as a whole, because most people think of hemp, they think of cannabinoids like CBD. And while CBD and other cannabinoids definitely got the conversation in hemp going and heated even, one of the most historical uses of hemp with fiber and hurd have really sort of taken a back seat to the cannabinoids. So that means everybody growing hemp grew for flower and cannabinoids like CBD. So growing for fiber, it's a different genetic. And I think that in 2020, acreage by use, 85% was grown for cannabinoids like CBD, 10% was grown for grain, and only 5% was grown for fiber. Now, that to us means there is enormous growth potential. So us getting into animal bedding is even more an oddity at this point because everybody else is still talking cannabinoids. So what happened organically was our first acquisition is a processing facility. So they receive hemp wet from the field from farmers and other clients, and we dry it, strip it, clean it, and store it. So last year we processed millions of pounds of hemp, which resulted in millions of pounds of a biomass byproduct. We essentially are in the facility looking at millions of pounds of this byproduct, not knowing really what to do with it initially, because we don't want to add to our clients' costs by charging a haul away fee or a disposal fee, but also, you don't want to get rid of it. So it's a matter of, okay, what do we do with this? And that brings me to another segment of what has driven us to this segment. And when you become part of the hemp industry, you also essentially become part of the hemp community. And the hemp community is made up of a group of people who have been lobbying and fighting for decades to try to get this plant utilized and legal. So that community also has this really deep underlying environmental mindfulness. So when you join that community, those principles become part of your principles. And when we were facing this situation where we had millions of pounds of biomass as this byproduct, that question of sustainability really started to play in, because we had an opportunity to take this waste product essentially, and create something sustainable out of it. So with all of those things combined and that type of thinking becoming embedded in our operations and businesses that we would like to continue to align ourselves with the industry we're in, but also still be a profitable business. We see this hitting every aspect of that because it also creates another revenue stream. So at that point, we went back to do some more due diligence and looked at the marketplace, and the animal bedding market was a good one. And we met with a guy who wanted to start an animal bedding business, but he didn't have the material to do it, because at that time, the only way to get the material for animal bedding was to import it from Canada, and it just wasn't cost effective. So all of a sudden, we find ourselves in this position where we have millions of pounds of this herd biomass. And so we sort of backed into this animal bedding segment.
Wonderful. Well, Melissa, that's a fantastic background. Really set the stage for us to get into everything else. Keeping the conversation on the animal bedding here for a moment, because I think that's a really fascinating part of this. If wood shavings are the most widely used animal bedding, why would somebody switch to hemp?
Well, one, I think that it's also a question of, okay, why wouldn't people be using hemp now too? And the reason really is just because hemp has not been accessible, because thus far, hemp was only legal in the US as of 2018. And so people haven't been growing hemp here. So logistically speaking, they've had to import it from Canada, and it was too expensive and just wasn't feasible.
Got it. Now, talking about the rollout plans for this, because it's obviously a big thing for you guys, and it's incredible to see the progress you've already had with this. Truly a subject I didn't even know anything about until we started working with Generation Hemp, but something that is so fascinating at the same time. Any exciting rollout plans for Generation Hemp's animal bedding we can be looking for, new releases, new ways it's going to get out there? Anything you can give us for background on that?
Sure. So now that we just made the investment and decided to launch this animal bedding segment, we did some market research. We actually did a lot of market research, and we decided to do two different lines. So if I can back up a little bit, there are lots of different animal bedding materials out there, and they target both small and large animals. So we targeted our small animal bedding with a really fun line called Rowdy Rooster. And we are using Rowdy Rooster to kind of liven up the animal bedding space, because I don't know how many times you've walked by the animal bedding section, but nothing there is super memorable. And we thought, if we're going to come out in the animal bedding segment and we're going to be coming out with hemp, we are going to try and be memorable. So we designed it with a couple of mascots. We are going bright colors, cartoon, tell the story of hemp, describe why hemp is healthier for your animal, and just sort of spread the word in general. So that is the small animal bedding line. Once we launch the small animal bedding line, we will roll out a second line called Kentucky Gold, and that will target horses, donkeys, the large animals. And that will be slightly different in its delivery, really. We plan on working with distributors for that and offering it in bulk. It'll be more austere. Again, living in Lexington, Kentucky means that you have a lot of exposure to the equine world. When you get into that segment, you're talking truckloads of animal bedding. So people are spending a lot of money on their animal bedding every week. And actually, I have a personal experience with that. So I kind of feel like I'm pretty familiar.
Wonderful. Well, Melissa, first of all, I'd love to hear really quickly about that personal experience, but then beyond that, just a last question for you as we close out and draw close on time, because you've given us an amazing amount of information about this, and truly something I think that there is not a lot of education on the market in so far. But I'd love to hear about that personal experience, but you can also tell, even through things like that, this means a lot to you. It's very personally meaning as far as what you're doing and why this matters for you. Can you give us just a couple of the things really quickly on the way out that really make you excited about the animal bedding market, why it's so important, and what you're looking forward to about driving this ahead?
Well, first, I think that it's really important for people to have access to hemp animal bedding. I knew that from personal experience. Hemp animal bedding is a lot healthier. It absorbs twice as much as animal wood shavings. It is antibacterial, anti-mold, anti-pest, and it has little to no dust. And all of these factors have significant impact on animal health. People look at their pets as family members now. It's really important to be able to offer the healthiest choice, and hemp is the healthiest choice. So I'm excited to be part of that in terms of, I'm going to be part of this segment that's offering this healthier choice that people haven't had as of yet. And also, I think that it's really important for us to take the ecological or environmental aspect of this really seriously. I mean, so much is going on in the world right now, and every day it feels like things are uncertain, and everything that we can do to make this planet safer and better and healthier, we need to do. And hemp as a plant, as a product, does that in every conceivable way at every stage of its growth, of its utilization, everything. And it's just really important that people start learning about that and why it's necessary.
Absolutely. Melissa, what a tremendous amount of information, and what a pleasure learning more about the animal bedding market. Something, like I said, so underserved and probably not very well known about, but very interesting from Generation Hemp. Melissa Pagen, Senior Vice President of Corporate Development, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.